Kids are fragile. Protect your children. You don't want them getting hurt. Nothing good can happen if your kid gets hurt, right? So you got to be there for them. You've always got to be there for them because you don't ever want to let them go. What if they get hit by a car? You can't let the kid out. You have to be there for the kid. And if you do that, you have to always be there for the kid. I work in a business school, and only recently are we hearing from business people who say, I didn't hire this person, and his mother called me. So it never stops. It never stops. When you get on the helicopter parent, whatever, escalator, whatever it is, it never stops. And so here's the way to see how quickly this changed. At what age were you let out? At what age could you walk out the front door, no adult with you, bye, Mom, I'm going to Billy's house. You walk 6 blocks, you and Billy go down to the store, buy some candy or whatever. At what age could you go out without any adult supervision? When were you let out without adult supervision? Not just walking to school, more than walking to school. This is what we always did, always did. Kindergartners are a little young, but first grade, that's when kids go out. You go out and play, come back at dinner. There's other kids out there. That's what we always did, first grade. So the norm changed in the 90s. Beginning of the late 80s, the norm changed in the 90s. Said, oh, if I ever take my eyes off you, you will be abducted. Therefore, you cannot go out. You can go to soccer practice because I will drop you off and then another adult's responsible for you until I pick you up. But we will not let you out of adult sight until you are 12. That's the norm that we developed in this country in the 1990s. Peter Gray is an amazing psychologist at Boston College who has done research on the effects of play. We learn so much in play. All mammals play. There is a biological imperative for mammals to play. In play, we learn how to coordinate, how to be empathetic, how to make up rules, how to enforce rules, how to be flexible with rules. What do you do when you don't get your way? We learn almost all of our social skills in play. It's the richest source of learning for children. We learn how to climb trees by climbing trees, not by taking a class on tree climbing where they show you PowerPoints. And so what's the effect if we suddenly take play away from children? And we say no more unsupervised play, everything is done by adults. What's the effect? The effect is a big rise in psychopathology. One of the main things we learn in play is how to handle risk for ourselves. If you've noticed, what kids do is when they play with something, like if they get a skateboard or anything, they play with it, and once they master it, they ramp it up, they make it harder. Once you can skateboard, you then skateboard down staircases, right? Kids are seeking out the level of risk that their brain needs to unfold. We have to learn to face risk in order to become self-governing adults. And in the 90s, we said, no more of that. You just sit there and don't go out where I can't see you. And so, as Alison Gopnik, a developmental psychologist, put it, trying to eliminate all such risks from children's lives might be dangerous. There may be a psychological analog to the hygiene hypothesis, which is like what I was telling you about with peanut allergies. In the same way, by shielding children from every possible risk, we may lead them to react with exaggerated fear to situations that aren't risky at all, such as a speaker coming to campus who's saying things that you hate. And we may isolate them from the adult skills that they will one day have to master. In other words, there is good reason to think that by protecting our children, we damaged them, we harmed them, we interfered with their development. On this playground, you can get hurt, and that's very important, because if you let kids face situations where they can get hurt, that's the only way they can learn how to not get hurt. Conversely, if you said, no, let's give kids playgrounds like this. This is what my kids were raised on. This is what most of you, right? Raise your hand if you recognize this from your childhood, right? This is boring. It's very hard to get hurt here, and therefore there's not much you can learn. It's fine for 3-year-olds, but not for 8-year-olds. The basic dictum, the basic insight that every culture knows, and it's common sense once you see it, is prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child. Because you can't fix every road that they will ever be on. They have to learn how to go off-road or on rough roads. In Britain, they're ahead of us on this. They have all the same problems, not quite as severely, but their heads of schools are beginning to understand the psychology here. Kids need risk. And so they're beginning to put construction materials out on a playground. And physics professors here, look what this kid is going to learn. He's created a lever, right? He's going to basically discover Archimedes for himself. And if the bricks go up like that, it's a lesson he will never forget unless he has amnesia. Okay. What do we do in America? The opposite. In America, we say, if anyone gets hurt, we will ban it for everyone, everywhere, for all time. And before we know it, everything is banned. I just found this meme floating around. We are all balloons filled with feelings in a world full of pins. Okay? This would be a terrible thing to teach teenagers or children of any sort. This, I think, is one of the reasons we end up with this. Taleb has this wonderful insight in his book. He says, he notes that a candle is easily blown out. A candle flame is fragile. If you have a candle flame, you have to protect it with a glass sleeve because any puff of wind will extinguish it. But once it reaches the stage of a roaring fire, the more wind, the better. The more wind, the stronger it gets. And so what Taleb says is, you want to be the fire and wish for the wind. If you get that, you understand anti-fragility.